Hey guys, I'm back. So I haven't really been doing too much to the Squareback lately. One of the things I've done is swap out the rear tires. The fronts I'm pretty happy with. I kept the 155/60/15s. I think that's looking pretty good. But the rear, I did have 205/60/15s that were for my BMW. I switched it over to a 205/50/15. What that did was give me a smaller sidewall and kind of just freshened up the stance. Suspension's been pretty much the same as when I first lowered it, so I'm pretty happy with that. The other thing I did was switch out the dashboard here. I know it's not the correct style, where this right here usually has those holes for a 67 and below. This one here, I believe, is either for a 68 and above or 70 and above. I'm not sure. The fitment is kind of funky. I was able to put the screws in down here, but I can't fit the metal trim or chrome trim on it. Plus, right here is a huge gap. I can pretty much fit my whole hand right here. I did buy this used, so I'm wondering if the previous owner left it in the sun and kind of shrunk it, but I don't know, maybe I'll get another one and get rid of this one. But for now, it's way better than the one that was originally in it. This was the original dash that was in it anyways, so still quite an upgrade. This is just beyond repair, so this video is going to be working on the panels. So I already removed the door panel here, and on the driver's side, these are the panels that came off of the Squareback. The armrest is in decent shape on the passenger side, but the driver, it's pretty much halfway gone. The vinyl is torn up. Looks like somebody just cut it with a razor. On this side, it's completely gone. The vinyl is okay here, but I just want to replace it. Instead of buying aftermarket ones, I thought of sourcing OEM 1966, 1967 door panels and seeing if I can restore those instead of using these. So what I found was this door panel here from the Samba, pretty good shape. And this one had a vinyl cover on it, but I peeled it off and I'll show you why. This is the vinyl that came off of that other door card that I found. The vinyl is in excellent shape, so I was able to peel that off the original backboard thing and stretch it over a new board. So the board, I went to Lowe's and I found what's called a Yucca board. This is 1/8 inch, 4 foot by 8 foot, 48 by 96, which I found to be the perfect size to cover the entire panel situation in the entire Squareback. So I went with that. Even though these new door panels that I found look to be in pretty good shape, they're not quite perfect. You can see back here, the wood kind of started dry rotting there. This one was in much worse shape. So you can see it's completely gone. Cut that board out, stencil it on there, and put the vinyl on it. Even then, when I peeled the vinyl off, it seemed to have shrunk because this one got in such bad shape. And I guess over the 50 some years, it's kind of shriveled up. So in order for me to even get it flat on this board, I had to use a heat gun, stretch it, clamp it down, heat gun, clamp, stretch, until I was able to go all the way around. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is continuing this one and then transferring that over to the driver's side also, and then cut out this hole here so that this can go on the inside, and then I'm going to clean everything up. So before I even went and bought that Yucca board thing, I made all the necessary measurements in the Squareback. These are just rough measurements, just so I know what's gonna fit on that Yucca board. After that, I made the cuts. These are the door panels, the rear panel, cargo panels, and all of that. So once I knew how everything was gonna fit, that's how I was able to determine where to make the cuts on that. See that? Cut here, cut here, cut here in the middle. So this here is this door panel. This bottom is going to be the next door panel. This is going to be for all of these little ones, and that is going to be for the cargo and the rear hatch panel. Before I glue this down, I do want to clean this up a bit so that way it adheres to the wood or hardboard, whatever it's called, a little bit better. So now on to cutting this hole here. Okay, now with this hole cut out, next thing to do was stencil out all of these holes here that clip it onto the door. Just lined everything up, sharpied all these holes here. I did also find an old tool that I used on a previous project. This is what's called a tack weld remover or something like that. Pretty cheap. I think it was like $6 on Amazon. And I found it to be the perfect diameter to drill out these holes here. That's what I've been using, just drilling these out all the way around. Now I have the vinyl put back on the board. Everything's clipped down. Got this put on. I might have to kind of play around with how this clips onto the actual board. That'll be another time. I drilled out all the holes in the back. The only ones I didn't drill are these little holes for the armrest. And the reason why I didn't is because the fact that I was stretching everything. I don't know if these are still in their correct position, so I'm gonna get that armrest and lay it on and verify exactly where the holes are before I start drilling on that. But all those holes are drilled out. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to put this on the door quite yet. The clips that came off of this, I'd say maybe about 80% of them were still on. I was missing a few, so before I try to attempt to put this on the door, I want to get replacement ones. So for now, I'm gonna take this off again and then stencil this onto the other board that I have and make the other door panel. So I looked online and it turns out the door panel clips are pretty expensive. There's something like $2 to $3 each for each of these, and there are probably what, 110, 120 in the entire panel or the interior of the Squareback. So I don't know about spending $200 to $300 to replace every single one of them. So I went and dug up every single clip that I pulled off of the original panels. Some of them are just a little bit rusty, but the majority of them are just kind of dirty. And there's really only a couple that were broken, so I separated those. So I think I'm gonna soak this in some kind of chemical. Oops. So I think I'm gonna soak these in some kind of solution chemical thing. I still do have my bucket of carburetor cleaner, so maybe I can try to dip it in there for like 24 hours and see how they go. After I do my full count, then it'll, I guess, let me know how many I absolutely need to buy. Speaking of these panels, I kind of did it off camera, but I went and stenciled every single panel. These are the two door panels here. This is the rear cargo, or the rear hatch, the rear side cargos, and the passengers in the rear seat. The only one is, this one is kind of funky. This is a rear cargo one, and my original one was in pieces. So, I guess I have that upside down. But I didn't have the entire thing to stencil it, so I kind of just eyeballed it and found the halfway center and flipped it over and did that. And it seemed to have worked, I guess, but I don't know. I think the fitment is kind of weird when I put it up to the rear hatch. I guess just the way that it kind of curves like that. It's not absolutely flat like all the rest of these panels are on the Squareback, but this one I'm not so sure. So I'm thinking once I clean all this up, I could probably just install everything else except that. Hopefully I have enough, but let's see how these turn out after I soak them in the bucket. So I'm gonna seal this up and leave it in there for, I don't know, 24 hours. And I just spilled on my panel. Oh well.
48 hours later.
Okay, here we go. So I ended up taking it out of the carburetor cleaner. I know I said 24 hours, but really I left it there for like 2 days. I don't think it's gonna get any better the longer I leave it in there. Some of the rust is still kind of showing. The other ones that were just kind of dirty, I just lightly scrubbed them and they look to be a little bit better. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Now the good news is that I did count how many I have that's pretty much salvageable. And I have 105 of these, and I counted everything I need minus this rear cargo panel, and I think I only need 94. This should be enough. Apparently this is door panel clips for a Mustang, and I've seen that some Volkswagen folks will actually use these to replace these clips here. But the problem with this is that they're just so, I mean, they're not that much bigger, they're just only a little bit bigger, but from what I hear, they're really hard to take off. So see how they mount onto the door panel, pretty much identical. But this versus that is just so much bigger. So if you force this in to the little hole in the door, it may fit, but when you're pulling them off, you risk breaking these wooden cards. So I'm just not gonna deal with these. I know these were so much cheaper. I think a pack of this from O'Reilly's was $28.65 after tax. I think you can actually find these in other places for like 10 bucks, but I was in a rush and spent my money on it and realized I'm not even gonna need it. So just giving you a heads up now if you wanted to go this route. Oh yeah, part number is 9876PK, and it comes in a pack of 100. I think I'm gonna end up just making this into a 2-part series. Video is a little bit longer than I was expecting, so I'm gonna kind of end it here, and I'll do a part 2 of actually putting the vinyl covers on this wood here and mounting them using the original hardware clips. So see you soon, guys.